Have you ever wondered if the coldest, most desolate, and most inaccessible region of the world could be the hottest front in the new geopolitical wars of the 21st century? As glaciers melt due to global warming, not only new sea routes but also massive resources worth trillions of dollars are emerging. But is what the great powers are looking for in this cold darkness just oil or natural gas? Or is it those top-secret critical minerals that will power humanity's future technology, our mobile phones, our electric vehicles, and our space rockets? The North Pole, also known as the Arctic region, is no longer just a remote geography where penguins and polar bears live. It is the world's new battlefield where global superpowers play chess. Today, we go down to the dark truth lying beneath the ice. For centuries, the North Pole remained outside of world trade and politics due to impenetrable ice masses and freezing winds reaching -40 degrees. But today the situation is completely different. Climate change and global warming may be a disaster for our planet, but for some countries and giant companies, this situation means an incredible opportunity. Because as glaciers recede, those impenetrable waters are opening to merchant ships. Today, two routes in particular are of great importance: the Northern Sea Route and the Northwest Passage. Traditionally, the journey of a cargo ship going from Europe to Asia using the Suez Canal takes weeks. However, this new Arctic route opened thanks to melting glaciers shortens the journey time to 15 days. Time is money, and these new sea routes are gradually shifting the center of global trade from the Middle East to the North Pole. This region, which used to be impossible to reach, now carries a massive economic meaning. The shortening of sea routes is only the surface part of the business. The real big war lies at the bottom of the sea. According to research by scientists and geologists, 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and exactly 30% of its natural gas reserves lie beneath the Arctic region. These figures are literally jaw-dropping. However, what states are looking for there is not just energy resources. The frozen lands of the Arctic also harbor massive amounts of iron, nickel, copper, cobalt, gold, diamonds, and uranium. There is another treasure even more critical than all of these: rare earth elements and critical minerals, which are the heart of the technology of the future. So the issue is not just seizing the energy resources of today or the past. The issue is to have the technology raw materials of tomorrow. At this point, we need to look very closely at the term rare earth elements. These elements consist of 17 different special metals located in the periodic table, which are incredibly difficult to extract and separate. Do you know why they are so important? Because the screen of the smartphone in your pocket right now is colored thanks to these elements. The motors of those quiet and environmentally friendly electric vehicles you see on the streets, those powerful magnets inside them cannot work without these elements. Tons of rare earth elements are needed for massive wind turbines to produce electricity. Even more frightening, the modern defense industry is completely dependent on these elements. Precision-guided missiles, radars, laser systems, and the production of chips that form the brain of fighter jets cannot take place without these elements. We can say this very clearly. The global wars of the future will not break out for oil, but for these silent, small, but incredibly powerful magnets and metals. It is of course unthinkable that such a great treasure would remain unclaimed. Today, the world's superpowers are in a relentless race to parcel out the Arctic. The biggest and most aggressive player on the field is definitely Russia. Russia is the country with the longest Arctic coastline in the world. And to use this advantage, it has been building massive military bases in the region in recent years. By producing new generation nuclear icebreaker ships, it wants to keep absolute control of the sea route. The United States, on the other hand, is participating in this race via Alaska. The main goal of America is both to ensure its strategic security and to balance the increasing power of Russia and China in the region. China, although it does not have a border with the North Pole geographically, is involved in this game by defining itself as a near-Arctic state. China's main goal is not military, but commercial and logistical. By accessing these resources, China wants to guarantee its absolute superiority in the global supply chain. Of course, there are other countries bordering the region such as Canada, Norway, and Denmark at this table. Sovereignty and continental shelf discussions are becoming harsher every day at diplomatic tables. The hardening at diplomatic tables also directly increases the tension on the ground. So is there really a risk of war in the North Pole? Although there is no open conflict, signs of geopolitical competition and Cold War have certainly returned. Russia's reopening and modernization of abandoned military bases from the Soviet Union era has alarmed the entire Western world. Increasing military exercises of NATO and Russia in the region, newly established high-tech radar bases, and nuclear submarines silently patrolling under the ice reveal the dimensions of the tension. The North Pole is no longer just a scientific research area due to these massive resources and sea routes it possesses, but one of the key points of global security. At this point, we need to ask a much deeper and more philosophical question. For whom are these massive resources in the Arctic region actually extracted? Especially the rare earth elements lying under the massive ice sheet of Greenland, an autonomous region belonging to Denmark, whet the appetite of foreign investors. Giant mining companies are flocking to the region and lining up to get mining exploration permits. But what do the local people gain? What kind of benefit will the indigenous communities, who have been living on these lands in harmony with nature for hundreds of years, get from these billion-dollar mining projects? Who will pay the price of the environmental cost, the destroyed nature, and the polluted waters? While those modern raw materials we need to start the clean energy era are being extracted, is a modern era of colonialism beginning. Are new dependencies being born? At the center of this colonialism and monopoly discussion is a single country. China. China is not only a country that extracts rare earth elements, but also a massive monopoly that alone controls nearly 80% of the world market with its capacity to process and refine these minerals. It is not enough to find or extract a mineral in the Arctic region or anywhere else in the world. The important thing is to have the massive technological infrastructure and refining capacity to process that mineral. Today, the United States or European countries want to get rid of this terrible weight of China in the supply chain. Here, the Arctic region is seen as an alternative source, a way out against this monopoly of China for the Western world. Now we come to the biggest and most ruthless paradox of this century. Environmentalism. We constantly hear that electric vehicles are very environmentally friendly and that wind turbines will save the world. We are experiencing a green transformation to zero out carbon emissions. But there is a very dark truth in the background of this green transformation. Incredible amounts of lithium, cobalt, nickel, and rare earth elements are required for the batteries of electric vehicles and those massive turbines. In other words, while we are trying to reduce carbon in the atmosphere, we are starting to dig and consume the world's underground resources more quickly and aggressively than ever before. Technologies produced to stop global warming cause us to open massive mine pits. What is called green energy may not actually be as clean as we think. And the Arctic ecosystem, which also houses these mines, will pay the biggest price for this massive mining race. The North Pole is one of the most sensitive and fragile ecosystems in the world. The increase in commercial ship traffic in the region and the opening of new oil wells invite terrible environmental disasters. While it is very difficult to clean up a possible oil spill even in warm waters, it is technically impossible to clean up that oil among massive ice masses. Mining activities can lead to irreversible losses by further increasing the melting rate of glaciers. The thousands of years-old lifestyles of indigenous communities are faced with the danger of complete extinction. The real striking and tragic question is this. While we are trying to save the world and slow down climate change, are we unconsciously consuming a completely new region and the nature of that region? When we put all these pieces, mines, submarines, and wind turbines together, what is the actual picture that emerges? Why are states there? This relentless race in the Arctic region is not just about finding more oil. It is also not just about selling more natural gas or holding rare earth elements alone. The real and biggest issue is who will control the massive industrial infrastructure and technology of the 21st century. It is about who will set their own rules. This race is a race of who will sit at the steering wheel of the world economy in the next century of humanity. He who controls the resources also controls the future. As a result, at the very top of the world, in that freezing and white desolation, a very dark game of chess is being played. Perhaps this great struggle that started in the Arctic region is not just about what is under the melting glaciers, but an ultimate war over who will manage the future economy and technology of humanity. The new and modern colonial era may now be starting silently under the ice, not above the ground or the sea. Well, what do you think about this? Do you think sacrificing the world's last untouched regions for the sake of switching to green energy is a reasonable price? Or will we just watch the new war of global powers? Make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell to continue revealing the background of the future.